Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Eleanor Hawkins, and welcome to Telestory Time. Here it is, New Year's Eve, and it's time for us to be thinking and making our New Year's resolutions, so I know you'll be thinking about that during the day. And now let me read you a poem. A year is a circle, 12 months in a row, filled with so much to see and to know. A year is a garland, 4 seasons in all, a spring and a winter, a summer, a fall. A year is a ring of new days and nights, each of them bringing 1,000 delights. A year is a gift of time, all brand new, and this year is waiting especially for you. And now I want to read our very first story, and the one I've chosen is in a very old book. But I have it marked with my little bookmark, and the title is The Clock That Would Not Say TickTock. Once there was a house, and nobody lived in it but a stove, a rocking chair, and a clock. Then one day an old little lady found the house. Oh, it was a nice house, and she decided to live there. But when the little lady moved into the house, it seemed too quiet. Even the clock on the wall was silent. The little lady said, "You look like a jolly clock. Why don't you say tick-tock?" The clock replied to the little lady and said, "Once I was merry, yes, merry and gay, but the people who lived here moved away." "But I'm going to live here now," said the little lady, "so won't you say tick-tock now?" The clock said, "No, I'm afraid I've forgotten how to tick-tock. The rocking chair no longer says crickety-crick, the stove does not say crackle and snap, and there is no tea kettle to sing on the stove. I have nothing to laugh about, and I must laugh if I am to say tick-tock." The little lady said nothing, but she took a pair of shiny knitting needles from a bag she carried. She also took out a ball of bright yarn, and she sat in the rocking chair and began to knit. Then the rocking chair began to talk. It said crickety-crick, crickety-crick, over and over again, while the knitting needles said clickety-click, clickety-click, over and over again. Now the little lady turned to the clock on the wall and said, "It is not lonesome here any more. Won't you say tick-tock now?" But the clock said, "No, for I still do not feel like laughing." Little lady did not say anything, but she went for a walk in a nearby woods, and when she came back, she had some firewood. Then little lady built a fire in the stove, sat in the crickety rocking chair, and took out the clicking knitting needles. Now soon the fire in the stove was making a lot of racket. Crackle and snap, crackle and snap. The rocking chair started to talk. It said crickety-crick, crickety-crick, and the knitting needles said clickety-click, clickety-click. Now the little lady turned to the clock on the wall and said, "Oh, it is not lonesome here, and it is cozy and warm too. Won't you start to say tick-tock now?" But the clock said, "No, for I still cannot laugh." Little lady did not say anything, but she went for a walk to the village. And when she came back, she had a tea kettle. She filled the tea kettle with water and put it on the stove. Then little lady put some more wood in the stove and lit a fire. And then she sat in the rocking chair, took out the shiny knitting needles, and began to knit. Soon the fire in the stove was making a lot of racket. Crackle and snap, crackle and snap. The rocking chair started to talk. Crickety-crick, crickety-crick. The knitting needles said clickety-click, clickety-click, and the tea kettle began to sing, ahum, ahum. Oh, the sounds blended together, and the house rang with happiness. Now little lady turned to the clock on the wall and said, "It is not lonesome here, and it is cozy and warm too. And the tea kettle is singing. Won't you say tick-tock now?" But the clock said, "No, for I still cannot laugh." Little lady did not say anything, but she went for a walk to a neighboring farm, and when she came back, she had a little kitty. Little lady put Kitty on a pillow beside the stove, fed him some nice warm milk, and then covered him up to go to sleep. While Kitty slept, little lady built a fire in the stove, and then she filled the tea kettle with water and put it on the stove, and then she sat in the rocking chair and she took out her knitting needles. Soon the fire in the stove was making a lot of racket. Crackle and snap, crackle and snap. The rocking chair started to talk. Crickety-crick, crickety-crick. The shining knitting needles said clickety-click, clickety-click. And the tea kettle began to sing, ahum, ahum. All the jolly, comfortable noise made Kitty wake up. He stretched and opened one eye, and then he saw little lady's ball of yarn and jumped on it. He pounced on the yarn and got all tangled up in it. Then the clock on the wall looked at the kitten and said, aha, ha ha. Little lady stopped her knitting and said, why, you laughed. The clock answered, yes, and now listen to me. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And you know, from that day on, the loudest, jolliest noise in the little house was the clock saying, tick-tock, tick-tock. And that is the story of the clock that did not want to tick-tock. And now, boys and girls, stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a moment to read you from the Big Do You Know book. Stay tuned. And now from our Big Do You Know book. Do you know all about New Year's Day? Do you know no one really knows when New Year's Day began celebrating? But New Year's Day is a holiday that is celebrated all over the world, often at different times. Do you know in the United States the annual celebration takes place on January the 1st and usually starts well before midnight on December 31st? And that's today. Do you know in the United States many people go to New Year's Eve parties? Crowds gather in Times Square in New York City, and they welcome in the new year when they watch the big ball fall and celebrate. And you know, many of us celebrate this on television. Do you know at midnight bells ring, sirens sound, firecrackers explode, and everyone welcomes in the new year? Many of them shout Happy New Year and then sing Auld Lang Syne. Do you know many people make New Year's resolutions to break a bad habit or to start good habits for the new year? Be sure and make your New Year's resolution today, and be sure and include a regular trip to your public library, any of the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System. And then you can check out some very good books on your very own library card. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back with a story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read you The Children That Lived in a Shoe. There was once an old woman who lived in a shoe. Oh, she had so many children, she didn't know what to do. But they all were so handsome and clever, I'm told, that she wouldn't trade one for diamonds or gold. Oh, there were middle-sized children, and short ones and tall, and babies with tummies as round as a ball. They had blue eyes and brown eyes and pigtails and curls, and the boys were all jolly, and so were the girls. They each had a dog or a bird or a cat, a goat or a bunny or something like that. They each had a drum or a fiddle-dee-dee and a little striped suit for a swim in the sea. They each had a wagon, a doll, or a kite, and no one was lonely from morning till night. They each knew a story, a song or a rhyme, a joke or a riddle for passing the time. They each could do handsprings and flip-flops and reels and turn a fine somersault head over heels. They each knew a game that was jolly to play, so they always were merry and happy and gay. The shoe house they lived in, both outside and in, was clean as a whistle and neat as a pin. From the heel to the toe, it was scoured and scrubbed, and painted and polished, and dusted and rubbed. Willie and Tilly and Bennett and Bun washed all the windows to let in the sun. Nancy and Lulabelle dusted the rooms and swept the floors clean with their own little brooms. Patrick climbed up on the roof, it is said, and painted the chimney a beautiful red. Sally and Sue set the table at 3 and put on the kettle for making the tea. Jack ran to the store every evening at 6 for lollipops, taffy, or peppermint sticks. Now Molly made cookies and jam for their bread and baked each a birthday cake high as his head. Anne made the puppies bonnets and shoes and read them a story out of the news. Mickey made hats for the ponies and goats and fed them a sugar lump after their oats. Betty knit sweaters and socks for the kittens and ironed their hankies and mended their mittens. With children so clever, the old woman cried, "Well, I've time for my housework and plenty besides." So she made them red parasols, raincoats, and boots, and caps with a tassel, and snowballing suits. She packed them a picnic whenever they asked it, with ham and bananas and pop in a basket. She made them all pocketbooks, just the right size, with a penny in each for a special surprise. Oh, it's jolly as jolly to live in a shoe. The children all cried, and the old woman too. And that, boys and girls, is the story of the children that lived in a shoe. And now I have another little story that I want to read to you, and this is entitled A Child's Year. A year is a circle, 12 months in a row, filled with so much to see and so much to know. A year is a garland, 4 seasons in all, a spring and a winter, a summer, a fall. A year is a ring of new days and nights, each of them bringing 1,000 delights. A year is a gift of time, all brand new, and this year is waiting especially for you. January is cold and snowy. February is full of love. March is springtime, bright and blowy. April is raindrops from above. May is for mother, we bring flowers. June is for weddings and bridal showers. July is parades and marching band. Vacation is August, we play in the sand. September is school, we read and we learn. October is pumpkins and goblins return. November is Thanksgiving and family is near. December is Christmas, the best time of year. A child's year is a wonderful thing. I wonder what this next year will bring. And that is the story of a child's year. And now, boys and girls, our next story is for grandparents and parents, a very special reading that I want to read and have you during that time think of a New Year's resolution. Please tell your parents and grandparents to listen very carefully. And now, parents and grandparents, I've chosen a very special story for you this morning. And so the title is Story Time with Your Children. Story Time with Your Children was written by Edie Lockman. Parents who read aloud to their children usually find the experience doesn't benefit just their children. It does wonderful things to them as well. Story Time with Your Children helps you and your child get the most out of this special time together. Take time with your story time with your children. Read with your child. Discover the magical glow contained in children's books. Experience the joy of standing with your child on the common ground of a story. There's no place better than a parent's or a grandparent's lap for a child to learn about the joys of reading. When I was growing up, as Edie Lockman said, there was always that special time during the evening. Sometime after the last dish was stacked away and clean and dry, the lights would dim and the world around us would turn quiet. A book would be cracked open, and suddenly I would find myself in magical worlds and faraway places. Stories of kings and dragons, of boys who flew, of busy firemen, and of Peter Rabbit. And for a time, nobody cared about work or the weather or the pendant race. They were in another world. My mom, my dad, our grandfather, and me. Have you read to your child today? To me, there aren't many questions that have a greater bearing on your child's success in life. The kids who have the edge in school and later in the marketplace are the ones whose parents have read to them, almost from the day they were born. Quite simply, they learn to love reading by being read to. As parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, we have an obligation to interest kids in reading, to foster it at the earliest possible age, and to keep reminding them of reading pleasures even after they've learned to read on their own. We want them to know that reading can be fun. Take some time today to read to your children. Open their eyes to the wonder of people and places and things they would otherwise never see or never imagine. They are all just a turn of the page away. So, parents and grandparents, please enjoy story time with your children. And you might make that a New Year's resolution that can be so rewarding in years to come. And now I want to show you this book that is entitled Heydays and Holidays. And when we open it all the way to New Year's Day, January the 1st, New Year's Day is like a birthday. The world becomes 1 year older and we all wish each other a very happy New Year. The New Year begins at midnight on December the 21st, the last day of the old year. Then the bells ring and the whistles blow. This is called ringing out the old year and ringing in the new. We make good resolutions and that we can follow all the year, and then we make New Year's calls on our friends. We have big family dinner parties. Some people give gifts on New Year's Day. And that is about New Year's Day in this very old book. And now I want to remind all of you boys and girls to be sure and make your New Year's resolutions today. Think about them and be sure and include one that I especially want you to include, and also another one. One is to be sure and visit your public library sometime regularly during the year. Yes, at any of the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System. And also be sure and ask your parents to remind you about the story hour at each of our libraries that are planned very specially for you. And also remember that all these will be very good memories when you grow up, when you know all the wonderful books you've read, and also the wonderful programs that we have in all of our libraries. Yes, they're planned especially for you each week. And now I want to wish you a very happy New Year from WCTI TV 12 and from all the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System, from Telestory Time. And now, boys and girls, we want you to see a wonderful fireworks display, and we're wishing you a very, very happy New Year 2017. Until next week, this is Eleanor Hawkins saying, Happy New Year to each and every one.